Hello and welcome to the 13th meetup of the Formbird Fleet Professionals Community. My name is Paul. Thank you all for joining us. It's good to see you. And why are we here? Well, we had such a great response from last meetup, which was about daily driver check sheets, where Adam did a deep dive and we covered lots of ground. If you need to see the video of that, if you missed it, you can always check it out. It's on our website under the resources tab. You can watch it at double speed. There's also timestamps below, so you can sort of jump past all the blah, blah, blah and just get to the bit you want. Another reminder that Formbird has been approved supplier on 2 state vendor panels for fleet information management systems and telematics GPS. We've got local buy, which is localbuy.net.au in Queensland, Northern Territory and Tasmania, and local government procurement for New South Wales. Mark, so what are we doing today? Don't respond, Mark, because this is just what are we doing. There's been lots of updates to Angular, so as in there's things to talk about with Angular. In fact, if you remember last meetup, Mark had to duck off because he was actually carrying the can as Angular went live on the actual day at the actual time we were doing the meetup. And speaking of good things coming out of the fleet community, like our risk assessment module, which we went over quite a few meetups ago, we've got another win with Adam is going to talk about the tag out process and recap the discussion that we were having last time. He'll go through the new process and hopefully, and I know this is true, it will actually reflect what the community wants and how the community wants to operate their tag out, which is, of course, incredibly important because it is about safety. Then Adam is going to give us some insights into how fleet captures income and expenses. It's not as simple as one would think. Apparently, according to Adam, he gave me a bit of a rundown and I was confused. No, it'll be all clear. Okay, news. Mark, tell us about Angular now running for 2 months at Greater Western Water and also being implemented at Bundaburg. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. So we're sort of actually going to shift the naming from Angular to version 4. I've been told off by our engineers that it's really not a pure Angular, which is kind of a technical term coming out of Google, but we're actually a little bit more agnostic. So it's our version 4, which contains the latest release of a whole suite of technologies, not just Angular. So we'll really start referring to it as our version 4. So I've had two major wins and good progress. So Greater Western Water went live on that day 2 months ago. They've been going well. It was actually last night, Bundaburg Clarity, they cut over. I haven't heard from them, which is always a good sign. So presumably it's all trundling along nicely. I think Adam may actually get a little bit of time to flick through a bit of the fleet conversion to that version 4 today. I think he said he might be able to, you can slip a little bit of that in there. Some of the other, I suppose a lot of the big work going on at the moment is around the scheduler, which we're working hard to, I suppose, meet Bundaburg's requirements, but also broader community requirement. This is really beefing up the way the system does your planned scheduled works. So this is really allowing for some very sophisticated planning around secondary services and getting those secondary services to snap to a primary service date, having the ability then to attach your components to those secondary services. And so there's a whole lot of work going around that. It's quite a complex piece because not only does it have to run that schedule and get things working together, you need to be able to create it in a ad hoc sense as well as through the system. And so there's a lot of ways you end up having to attack it. So that's kind of giving ourselves and everyone else, and particularly the poor old Bundy guys, a fair bit of brain damage and trying to get that all going. But that's certainly been a fair bit of progress has been on that, but it's still a little bit ongoing. We're just waiting for some final rounds on really running through some scenario testing and what have you. Adam will go through a whole bunch of stuff, which, as Paul said, really coming out of some of the discussions from last time, and I'm not sure what else he's going to cover, but he'll fill us in about 2 seconds on that. So that's really sort of the main news. I suppose some of the other news of sort of semi-fleet related, we do actually have a few. I think I might have mentioned which are kind of fleet related because they're very sort of similar type of things. One of them is a project with Sensys Gatso, which was the speed camera, which was running speed camera management down in Tassie. That's gone live. It's just probably just going live when we had our last meetup, but it's now fully live and running, which is fantastic. Adam's been partly involved in that project, or heavily involved in that project, I should say, but that's been a great success. And we've also kicked off our first transport management, which actually, is I suppose an auxiliary to the fleet management as well, because it actually has a fleet management component, which is actually managing bulk fuels. Both of those projects are actually working with our partner Opturian for providing, if you like, AI optimization. This is sort of it's a direct relationship between what they already do with optimization for delivery and sort of stock management, if you like, in a sense. But we also see that this is a step towards leveraging AI and this is constraint-based optimization within a broader sense of our products and technology, whether it be in the water industry, whether it be in fleet or whatever, really looking at what we can do to optimize, whether it be resource management or scheduling of work or whatever it might be. So anyway, that's two projects that'll be hitting that kind of AI stuff, which will really, I suppose, give us a better understanding of what we can and can't do with it. So that's about it from me. I
was going to ask you a question, Mark, which came up through the last meetup, which was about about what's the difference between a daily driver check sheet and a digital pre-start?
Probably I have to ask the community that, but essentially from our perspective, it's one of the same thing. It's an operator's check and confirmation that the asset is safe and operable for them to continue. So whether you call it daily driver, whether you call it pre-start, whether you call it whatever, they all have a similar context. From our point of view, our daily driver, which is a pre-start, then turns into as these guys know, turns into, if you like, a problem report or a problem request, which the request then turns into, the attached work orders and what have you. But from our perspective, it's one of the same. It's a terminology issue. Cool.
All right. Well, we should get on with Adam now. Adam is a Formbird consultant, one of our up-and-coming stars. He has experience. He's an engineer. He's got lots to talk about. There he is, smiling away. Adam, so you're going to talk first safety. So tell us all about the outcomes from the last meetup, which was talking about tag-out procedure. So in
the last meeting, we went through the whole daily driver check sheet process, workflow, from creation through to managing the request, as Mark kind of alluded to there. But as part of that conversation, we demonstrated the new tag-out functionality that had been developed, and that had been based off requests from Chris from Greater Shepherd and amongst some others as well. But that discussion at the last meeting highlighted the need that we needed like a secondary approval process. The discussion was that I think the operator needs to be able to remove that tag, or actually has to remove that tag to say that the asset's safe. But there also needs to be a step in there where the workshop is actually approving that vehicle can go back into circulation as well. So since last meeting, Paul went away and has totally redesigned the tag out process. So first off today, I'll probably just go through and demo the revised process and looking for some feedback about it. And also we've got a question for you guys as well. So I'll start off with that. Bear with me while I share my screen. Can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Fantastic. So this is a daily driver check sheet that I've already kind of pre-prepared here. So as an operator, you complete one of these, and then if you identify something that means the vehicle should be tagged out for whatever reason, you scroll down the page and we've got this this safety tag section. So to create the new safety tag, we click on add a new child document and then new safety tag. And you can see it pre-populates with a few things like the date and time that it's been created, the person, and also the asset. And we give it a reason. So I don't know, the vehicle is unsafe to operate because the seat belts don't work. And then we can click the save tick. So that's now created a safety tag document for this asset. And if I reload this page, we should get a nice little warning up the top here. So next time when while that safety tag is active, this warning will show up on any daily driver check sheets that are created by any operators, warning them not to use the asset because it's tagged out currently. The other place where it'll show up is if you navigate to the asset itself. And I'll just need to refresh the page here. Oh, and this is the new version 4 environment, by the way. So this is a little sneak peek of the version 4 environment just to demonstrate these new developments. Hopefully, it's fairly obvious the asset is loading much faster with the version 4 platform, which is really good, obviously.
Just hit that refresh again so everyone can.
So that's loaded the whole asset in a fraction of the time that it was taking before. That's kind of an indication of how much faster this new platform is. So going back to the tag outs, we can see that warning banner as well on the asset itself. And we can see our safety tags that have been created. So I've got one that I made earlier, which is inactive, but I've got this active one as well. So presumably once the safety tag has been flagged, someone's going to review that. And take some action around whether there needs to be work that's completed, whatever else. While all that's going on, this safety tag stays active. Once the issue has been remedied and the asset can go back into service, you can go into the asset and access the safety tag document. And then the operator can remove the tag, and then the supervisor can also remove the tag. You see there's a reminder that comes up there that just reminds any physical business processes should be followed as well. You can see with these checkboxes here, it records the user who's checking it, and also the date and time of when they've checked that. One bit of feedback that we're actually interested in is who should, which roles within the application should be able to provide that approval that's not the operator. So at the moment, it's set up to be administrators, asset managers, supervisors, and that's the workshop supervisors, and technicians. Could we get feedback from the group about who should be doing that secondary approval or primary approval, depending on which way you look at it?
Hi, Adam, it's Ngaire.
Hey, Ngaire.
I would probably say from our business, it would probably be the workshop supervisor. So what you've got there is supervisor. Technicians can be broad because it can include apprentices. So it depends on each business site. You'd probably want to keep it at that higher level at supervisor at this stage. That's my spin on it though.
Yep.
Adam, same. I agree. We're the same. Like our coordinators would be the ones to remove it as well. So they check it, make sure it is all good.
Great. Thanks, Eleanor.
G'day, Adam. It's David.
Hey, David.
How you going?
Very well, thanks.
I'm just thinking of it from because we've got physical lockout tag out system, which we follow a procedure where, for example, a mechanic will put on their physical lock on the battery, lockable battery isolator, etc., with the keys and so on, so no one can physically start it while they got their hands in it or whatever, or decide to drive out while they're under it. So our current policy is that person working on it when they're completed all the duties goes with their individually issued key and takes the lock off and puts it back on the lockout tag out rack. So in our view, I'd like to have the electronic system matching that policy, so that which is consistent with industry standard with lockout tag out. So for us, it'd be the person working on it. And then our policy also states is, for example, someone locks out a piece of equipment, might be a grader, and they're still working on it. And then say, for example, they're sick the next day and they got their personal lock on it. We do have a procedure for supervisors to go and assess, ensure the job's completed. Then only then can that person's issued tag be removed or lock. So similar processes electronically to match what happens in the workshop field, etc. Would be the way I'd like to see it.
Great. Thanks, David.
Can I just get clarification? It's Ngaire again. I missed the last meeting, unfortunately. Sorry. So with the safety tags, is it going to cover all instances, or is it more to deal with your defect and unroadworthy items that are flagged by an operator? Is it for, like David said, is it for all their lockout tag out systems that an individual business can use, or is it only for roadworthy items?
It could be used for any purpose that your operators or you as a business deem is appropriate for it, I guess. Essentially, what it does in the application is just flag that it has been tagged out, that there's some kind of safety issue with it and it shouldn't be used, and allows us to put up those banners, on their asset and on the daily driver check sheet to warn operators and whoever not to use the asset. Okay,
lovely. All right, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, Ngaire, you're right. It's probably a little bit different to what David's talking about in terms of it's not necessarily the workshop locking out operations. It's more the operational lockout, saying that it's being tagged out from an operational point of view, and therefore it's being flagged against the daily drivers and any other operations. But it can, it is more generic than that, of course, because it really is just saying it's not it's broken,
it's not restrictive.
It's not safe in some form.
Okay, that's wonderful. All right, thank you so much, guys.
Yep. Yeah, and to clarify as well, operators can tag out an asset, create one of these safety tags, but so could a mechanic or any other user. They could just navigate to the asset and create a safety tag from the asset itself. It doesn't have to be through a daily driver check sheet.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to clarify our process too, we have out of service tag currently, which, for example, a driver says, hey, the brakes feel a bit spongy. I'm going to tag it out till it's checked. So that way we're notifying everyone, someone comes on the weekend and jumps in that truck and there's a tag on the steering wheel and the keys are locked out. Do not drive it till it's checked. Then it comes into the workshop and the lockout tag out's used. So again, this can be the electronic version of that, but we have that physical tag put on by anyone.
Yeah, we've got the same here at Bundaburg Regional, so we have those information and out of service tags as well too. So
and then the mechanics or people doing maintenance do the lockout tag out, where they're physically doing the work on it, one to lock it out and stop it being started while they're working on it and so on.
Correct. Yeah, for whatever business, or whether they put it in a tag out box, or if they've got hooks or a keyboard. All right, that's cool. I just because I missed the last meetup, I just wanted to get clarification. It's good to see how everyone has their thoughts on this.
Definitely. Any other sites got any input on this? Dion?
No, it's Sean here from Bega. How you going?
Hey, Sean.
I agree with the supervisor removing the approval as well. That's just a protocol when they close the job. When it comes time to the final step is for the actual supervisor to remove the tag. So tick off the boxes, make sure everything's been completed, and that will be the final step. So yes, agree with that.
Yeah, it sounds like the general consensus is supervisor. I understand where you're coming from, David. I was just thinking about the physical process versus the electronic process. And if we look at that case of an operator completing a daily driver check sheet, and identifying something that, indicates to them that the vehicle is unsafe to use, then this tag out process within the application will always be ahead of any physical process. because that physical lock is not going to go onto the asset until the vehicle is actually brought to the workshop and the mechanic looks at it. So in terms of keeping them in line, I'm not sure it'll be the same. So maybe it does end up being a secondary review by the supervisor after the actual physical lock has been removed, in terms of within the application, and managing that within the application.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Although, for our out of service tag, someone can do that after hours or whenever and just park it in the yard when no one's here.
Right.
They might say, brakes are spongy. I want to make sure no one else takes it until it's been checked. And then our policy is, or procedure is, you just do that regardless. Yep. Anyone can do that. And then the lockout tag outs physically when the workshop or the authorised person doing the repairs has done it. But yeah, in terms of the electronic one, I suppose if the mechanic's removing it, that's fine. But if an operator has reported something, then a supervisor needs to confirm it's been done. So yeah, leave it at that.
Adam, I've just got one more question. Sorry, I've got lots of questions as usual.
Questions are good.
How does this look in the workshop dash component, and is it easily seen if you were to do a supervisor review? So obviously we rely quite heavily on those supervisor reviews once work's completed. So just wanting to see how this side of the safety tag applies to the workshop dash and the visibility of it, basically. Or is it something that you would actually have to go to each asset to know?
That's a good question, Ngaire, and I haven't probably prepared for that side of it particularly. Paul might know off the top of his head.
I was just going to quickly jump in there. Ngaire, because now, what the big move was, if you've noticed you weren't here last week, the initial cut on this was that it was tagging basically against the assets. And what we've done is we've moved it to actually a document that is then controllable independently. Yep. So we can have then multiple tag in and outs, and that keeps a complete record, which means we can build up very easily now the data that goes on that tag itself.
Yes.
So there is because it's now separated out, it's very easy to now do reports and present, open tags, all the rest of it. We can stick them in grids, we can stick them all over the place. It sort of makes it now a little bit, well, not easier, but it because it's more complete in its own right, when it was tagged out, what's the current status, all the rest of it. It'll be easy for us to flag it, against dashboards or against its own reports, or, have them workflowed by emailing supervisors or whatever it might be,
Excellent. Well, I probably just looking at if it's something that's still open, or if it's in progress, it would probably show up on your workshop dash as in progress. That's the way that I'd be looking at it. That's probably only just how I would look at it, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree. There probably needs to be some flag on the workshop dash, and there may already be. Again, Paul might know off the top of his head if it is or not, but I don't at the moment.
No, that's all right. That's okay. Thanks, guys.
It would, yeah.
Today was really talking about the process itself and making sure that everyone was kind of happy with that process, because then we can start leveraging the data elsewhere.
Yeah, no problems. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Adam, it's Don here. I quite like the layout. The only change I'd probably like there would be instead of the operator removal, we'd never ask an operator to remove a tag, even if they were capable. It's always a technician or supervisor. It would be technician if they applied the tag only, and then supervisor if the technician wasn't available.
Right. So the feedback from the last meeting was that the requirements are for the operator, like whoever puts the tag on the asset, to also remove that as like a final, yes, I'm comfortable again to use this vehicle. But that's totally reasonable if that's not the process that you guys follow. That's just kind of where it's come from for context for you, Don.
That's a really interesting point, Don. I suppose the question is, and this is sort of a group question, is that I would expect that in many circumstances, the removal by the operator may in fact be a different operator in any event. So is it really, does an operator removal make sense in any circumstances, or essentially the operator creates it, the supervisor removes it, and then another?
Yeah, definitely not for us, Mark. Even an operator, to be honest, would never tag a machine out. Generally, we'd normally get the phone call to come out and assess first, and we would be determining whether it's tagged out at that point or not. Normally that wouldn't be an assessment by the operator unless it was a step broken or something. But again, they would generally ring the workshop first and we would advise a tag immediately. And we wouldn't expect them to even tag it out. We would generally do that ourselves.
Right.
I was going to say we're asking all our staff to, if they think there's a problem, it might be you, Mark, for example, you feel your steering's not right. Yep. Okay. Everyone's authorized to grab an out of service tag and say, I think the steering is not right. And then the removal of that tag would be done by a suitably qualified person, either, once it's been assessed, usually by the workshop. Yeah. So it's either the mechanic, and then our process is then we lock our tag out to say it's out of service while we're working on it, and then we would remove the out of service tag, and then once it's assessed and repaired if needed and put back into service, all tags are removed. So it's either the mechanic or the supervisor. And I agree with everyone's comment. It wouldn't be the operator, because operators aren't suitably qualified normally, but we're relying on the workshop people to do that part of it.
So that's really the question for the whole group. Does anyone need the operator, or would we just remove the operator and the only person that tags it out and approves it is a supervisor?
Or mechanic.
Or technician.
Well, whoever's suitably qualified to detect the removal.
Correct.
Yep, that would be definitely our process, Mark, for sure. Yep.
What about Dion and Sean? Sean,
yeah, same.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so just one person who would remove it, who would have the sufficient authority.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably just add, basically, removal approved, where it says operator in brackets, change that to technician or mechanic, and then removal approval, technical supervisor, because the way that's written there now, an operator could remove the tag and his unqualified supervisor could remove it. It's got to be a technical point of view.
So technical. Well, yeah, okay.
Yep.
So just put the wording as I don't know, technical authority or someone.
Yeah.
Or just approval removed, and just have it at whatever level. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Mark, technician, mechanic, whatever. Yeah, probably technician. It fits.
Technician then covers everything, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, diesel, whatever. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
So just to clarify for my benefit and Paul's benefit, we're saying that in no case does the operator ever need to agree that the safety tag can be removed, and that instead we'd prefer to have the technician on there instead of the operator, in addition to the supervisor.
No, just the one. Just the one being, not necessarily supervisor. The problem, I think the problem is that supervisor can imply a non-technical person. I could be your supervisor because I get you to dig holes. So
it
depends on what perspective you have.
Yeah,
so
that's fine. Understand that.
It's a technique. It's really removal approved, and that's almost it. Not necessarily putting it to a specific role, other than technically capable. But
does there need to be two?
No, just the one.
So does there need to be a mechanic do it, and then their supervisor agree, or a workshop supervisor agree? That's my question.
I think what I heard was no, just a single approval, which would be an appropriately qualified person within the system in terms of security.
Bundaburg agree. David, you agree?
Suitably qualified person.
Yep.
Yeah, just put suitably qualified. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, something like that. That's good, David. Yep.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Which app roles within the application should be able to do that, like a technician and a workshop supervisor, for example?
Yes, I would agree with that, because that's how our physical lockout tag out works.
Well, again, Bundaburg, so the technician can remove it, but providing it's the technician that actually applied the safety tag in the first place. If the technician that applied that safety tag is not the one, it has to be the supervisor. Because the technician that may come in on that job, secondly, may not be fully aware of where the progress of that particular job, and may not be able to determine whether he should move that tag or not. So it has to be the person that initially put the tag on, or the supervisor.
So maybe just make it a supervisory role within the application, within the fleet application.
Yep.
So that means then then it really determines on the site what they call as a supervisor, because if they've got sufficient qualification to do that, then they've got sufficient qualification to do other thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, well, let's put aside the tag out. And Adam, how do you feel about telling us more about capturing financials? Are you exhausted, Adam?
No, not at all. Just focused
so
on
much energy.
getting the ideas down for myself while we're on the meeting. That's all.
You can check the video out if you like.
I could rewatch the video, couldn't I? That's a good idea. Use those handy little little bookmarks that you put in, Mark.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll just get rid of some of these tabs for myself. So recently we've had a few separate inquiries around costing reports, financial reports, I guess, and where the different numbers come from. So today I wanted to go through and just touch on these little reports and give a bit of an explanation about them, but then also dive a little bit deeper into where the numbers actually come from. So the first report we'll have a look at is the asset invoice report. This was called the monthly asset invoice report, but we're changing it to removing that month factor to it, because we've broadened it out to be not just reporting by month, but also reporting by a broader date range, for example. There's a few different things in this report. So first of all, I'll just touch on the controls. So you can hide columns if you want. So if you don't want to see, not that it's displayed anyway, because my little laptop screen's not wide enough, you can remove asset status, for example, or maybe you want to remove, I don't know, the fixed monthly charge column or something like that. And you can see that these buttons control the columns that are displayed. So this is a table of assets, and you can see that we've got a variety of different fields just directly from the asset, and then we've got different cost columns here as well. So toll cost comes from toll documents, fuel costs come from fuel documents, and which ones we include are governed based on the report start and end date. We've got tire cost there. Now that comes off an asset expense document where it's categorized as tire, and I'll go through that in a moment. Additional expenses is all other costs that are captured on an asset expense document. We've got scheduled maintenance and unscheduled maintenance costs, so they come from work orders, and whether the work order is classified as scheduled or unscheduled. We've got a fixed monthly charge which comes off the asset. We've got registration costs and insurance costs, which come from those documents, respective documents. We've also got lease costs as well. So this is a bit of new functionality that Paul's been working on to be able to capture lease costs within the application. So I'll just stick at the report level for the moment, and then I'll dive down into those documents below. So bear with me here. The second report we'll go through is the asset operating cost summary report. So again, similar thing, selecting a start date and end date or a preset time period. This is by asset type. So you can select, for example, heavy vehicle, or we can select passenger vehicle. So it's not quite as broad as the previous one. It's really just looking at a snapshot of a subsection of the entire fleet list. Going a bit slow here as we screen share. Computer's struggling to handle it. So you can see where the operating cost is positive, it's in the green, and then when it's negative, it's red. So you can see that there. The data in this environment isn't perfect. It's all test data, so it doesn't show up really, really well as it would kind of in a more operational sense. Bear with me while I scroll down this page. My computer catches up. We're almost there. Definitely wasn't that slow before. And you can see that it provides a table of what's included in the report as well. So with CSV exporting, so you can see, again, similar to the last page, you've got insurance, you've got lease, registration costs, additional expenses. So that's all your asset expense documents, including tires. fuel, materials. So materials comes off the work order, as does additional materials. You've also got labour as well, which comes off the work order. We've got hire, so that's your internal asset hire documents. You've got income and you've got expenses, so they're totals. And then you've got a net, which is, either going to be negative or positive, depending on the costs versus income scenario that you end up with. The other important one that I think probably has attracted a bit more interest recently, so I wanted to dive into a bit more, is the asset summary. So the asset summary does a whole lot of different stuff. It's got, really high level, the time that it's been active, the time that it's had different allocation statuses, the operational history, so how many repairs it's had, how many daily driver check sheets have been completed, really that high level summary of the asset itself. You get, total fuels, you get incomes, so you've got hire store, which have been completed, hire store that's ongoing. So again, those come from internal asset hire documents. You've got permanent hire and temporary allocation. So that's looking at the allocation documents on the asset. And we've got the expenses side of it. So we've got fuel, which comes from fuel receipts, the maintenance of the labour. So that's the labour that comes across on the work orders with the time recorder. The maintenance materials. So that's all the materials on the work order. We've got insurance. We've got registrations. It comes from those documents, and just general asset expenses as well. And that gives you a total and a total year-to-date value as well. And that'll either be, again, positive or negative, depending on where the asset ends up in income versus expenses. So I'll dive into each of those documents now. So starting off with the fuel receipt, I think most people will probably be familiar with this one. It's a very common process that I've observed across all the different sites. So this is categorized based on the cost of the fuel, and then also the purchase date. We've got our work order. So again, this is capturing materials and labour. So you've got an additional materials total, a materials total cost, and we also have a total labour cost as well. So that's where those numbers come from. We've got our toll document, which is based off the start date of the toll document or the trip, and also the cost of the trip there. We've got registration and insurance expenses. So this is a registration one, so it fulfills both roles. You select a type, so this one's registration, and we have registration fees across here, and a total registration fee. And similarly, we have the same document, except it's an insurance type, and you select the total insurance cost. We've got our asset expenses. So this is where I was referring to in this one here. So whether it's additional expenses or tyres. So this is a general one. It doesn't have a category selected, or it doesn't have a tyre category selected, I should say. So it's based on the expense incurred date, the cost. So that'll go into the additional expenses. You can see on this example here, this asset expense document, it's got a category of tyre. So if that's selected as tyre and entered exactly as tyre, or if it's using the importer, if there's a column that's mapped for the category and that is exactly that text, then the document will be created with that category, and then that allows it to be categorized into the tyre costs column. We've got our internal asset hire document. So it's got a closed status, or it can have a in progress status as well. And that determines on the asset summary, if I can go back to that one, whether it's in that completed category or that ongoing category. We've also got the allocation document here, which I think most sites would be relatively familiar with. And whether it's permanently assigned or temporary determines on the asset summary whether it falls into that permanent hire, those that against permanent hire or against temporary allocation there. I've gone through that pretty quickly, but hopefully it's been hopefully it kind of provides some connect some dots, I guess, about these reports, and then where the data is actually drawn from on these reports. Is there any questions about this one?
Yeah, Adam, it's Brad here from Tenterfield.
Hey, Brad.
Just wondering if there's been any linkages created when you said imported there before between the enterprise software that we use and Formbird itself. So nearly every purchase we make has to go through our enterprise software, creates an order and all those sorts of things. So all that information's already entered anyway. I'm just wondering if there's any linkages that feed back into this that you've just run over now, and whether there's a field type document where you can link up whatever your enterprise software is to this. So we had different fields, tyres, blades, registration costs and those sorts of things. They could be pretty much imported into here straight out of the enterprise software. Just wondering if anything's happening in that space.
Yeah, so that's a project we're actually working on with Bega Valley at the moment, in terms of being able to bring in the costs that they incur through their enterprise software to get it into fleets for this, high level reporting on various things. So we obviously have a few things there already in terms of toll imports, fuel receipt imports or fuel imports, and the asset expense imports. So they're the three entities that we currently have to import costs into Formbird fleet.
Excellent. Yeah, well, most of the work's already done. Obviously, if there's a procurement system at council, so it'd be silly not to try and leverage some of that, that's for sure.
Yeah, so the asset expense importer is I guess designed in that general sense, to try and capture the things that aren't captured elsewhere. So it's the stuff that can't be captured on a work order. If it can't be broken down to that work order level, it's still a way to get the data into the application so that it can form part of your, whole of life reporting against the asset, essentially, is the main purpose of it.
Adam, I've got a question.
Go for it.
So when does this go live? When can I use this one? This report, this asset?
We're at a point now where we're developing in version 4. So all of the developments that we're working on are in there.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure of the timeline of when we're going to be able to get a fleet release of version 4, but I dare say it's not going to be before Christmas at this point. Just not really a good practice to release stuff before Christmas if there are any issues that come up and things. Yeah, if everyone on leave.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. No, sounds good. It looks really good. I had to do a report for Marine last week for 7 months, and I had to I had each month, and then I had to add them all individually. It took me 6 days, full days.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome. So in future, when she needs something like that, I can just download this.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Really good, really good.
So maybe I'll just add to that a little bit. So we're kind of in that transition phase, which makes it difficult in terms of our sort of release cycle and everything else, because we've got both the underlying technology, which is our version 4, and the fleet applications or the various applications. There's probably about 15 or 20 sort of items that Paul and Adam have identified that need to be updated. As you can see, it's actually progressed a hell of a way. You're not seeing the issues, but there are issues in there in terms of different sort of little bugs and stuff. A lot of it's on the sort of front end. But we made the decision to largely do all new development now under the version 4, which does sort of slow down overall development a little bit because we're kind of working with the base technology as well as with the application. But it's really sort of the most efficient way in terms of moving it, because as we're developing these parts of this release, we in effect are testing the platform at the same time, and then the two of them sort of come together. It gives it a good run as a platform while we're doing ongoing development. So things like the scheduler and everything else is really now being transitioned across to this version. As you can see, we haven't really. I don't think anyone would have picked up any of the bugs that are there. Adam might have seen a few, or Paul would have seen a few, but it is looking pretty good. And as you can see, that it really has improved things like load times of the asset. It's just. It's chalk and cheese, which is fantastic.
So sorry, can I just clarify? It's Ngaire again. Can I just clarify? So when are you looking at putting all of this into the live environments for all sites? Is this going to be an early next year, or
yeah, we would say
do you have a
early,
time frame?
Yeah, no, I would say early next year. Sort of probably early mid-Feb. We're wanting to get, like you guys testing the scheduler in here. We'll get these items done, and then we'll do that release with the version 4 technology. So it kind of makes a big chunk to swallow, and then we can go back to much faster releases and smaller releases. But it's the only efficient way to do it, because at some point you kind of have to commit to it. And at some point, you end up having this sort of big swallow, because all of a sudden, not only you're sort of refactoring stuff to take advantage of the new technology, and you kind of have to make that call at some point. And that's what we're trying to do now, is make that call. We're sort of
excellent.
The differences, and if look, it's always it's always in hindsight we know what we should have done.
Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I agree.
Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing, Ngaire.
It is, and it's a bit of one of everyone's favourite comments. So when do you reckon it would probably be released into? When you're looking at having that in test for all sites to run out that test and just iron any little bugs out and have a scoop over it before it's ready to go live? Is that you're looking January for that as well too?
Look, because we sort of shut down like a lot of you guys for sort of 2-3 weeks in Jan, and again, Paul needs to correct it where we're at. We've got sort of about 15 items. We've been held up with, we're finally been sort of impacted with COVID. A couple of the senior guys have been out the last week and a half. So, a couple of items are just stalled totally. So realistically, we've got another 2-3 weeks. So that'll be a valuable 2 weeks to, before Christmas. And then realistically, I'd say that by the end of Jan, early Feb would be looking at testing, early mid. And so it'd be like a March release sort of thing, early March, that we'd be releasing the whole lot. So there'd be 2 or 3 weeks of testing. Something like that at least. Like I said, we're really going to be blocking out. There's within that sort of 8 weeks away, there's 3 to 4 weeks that are kind of gone in one form or another.
Yeah, with the Christmas break. Yeah, that's
Christmas
to be expected.
And everything else. So as you can see, it's progressing really well. We're really excited, but it's still, there's still enough on there that we know that we just can't just sort of bang it out.
Excellent. All right. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I've stuck to today and to the stuff that I know works within the new environment within version 4. But so I've deliberately moved, not gone into areas where things are broken or anything like that.
Yeah, we don't give a false sense that it's all absolutely perfect yet.
Yeah, exactly.
What we wanted to show is that we're, that is making damn good progress, and these are the sort of results that we're achieving and where it's at.
Okay, well, we're almost up on the hour. So perhaps, look, thank you everybody for your contributions, particularly David in the tag out, Ngaire for everything. And then also, when is our next meetup? It will be in February. If I go to my thing, it will be on the 23rd of February. So until then, we'll send out the video recording sometime next week with the timestamps. Everyone loves the timestamps, particularly Adam. And so until they everyone have a great, safe and enjoyable, jolly, lots of family and no family fights or anything, Christmas. And
good luck.
Yeah, I know. What a nightmare, right? Anyway, well, we're done. We've already had 3 Christmas parties already in our family, so ridiculous. We'll see you all next year, and have a good one.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Merry
See you,
Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
See ya.
everyone.